Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Come on, you can do better than that. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. I hope that you all are having a fantastic conference. I know folks are still sort of coming into the space. There's plenty of seating over here. We have folks up on Capitol Hill, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to start us out this morning by introducing a great friend of the National Alliance to End Homelessness and of the work that we all do together. And this morning I have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker. I've had the opportunity to testify in front of her and work with her and her staff on really key legislative efforts happening in the Senate. And I have found her to be an incredibly thoughtful and powerful partner in our work. And I am, of course, talking about Senator Tina Smith from the great state of Minnesota. Where are my Minnesota folks? Since coming to the Senate in 2018, Senator Smith has been a fierce advocate for the people and communities across Minnesota, especially when it comes to addressing the country's housing crisis. As the chair of the Senate Housing Subcommittee, she has brought a new level of focus on homelessness and homelessness-related issues, holding hearings and finding areas of common ground across the aisle. During the pandemic, Senator Smith led the fight to make sure that people experiencing homelessness were able to receive COVID relief payments. Her leadership was instrumental in passing the American Rescue Plan, which provided emergency rental assistance and helped over 8 million renters stay in their homes without sacrificing their basic needs. You can do better than that. Right now, she is championing a bipartisan bill to expand housing access in rural communities, calling out the Supreme Court's decision on Grants Pass, and pushing measures to improve access to tribal housing. She's also an incredible advocate for renters and first-time homebuyers. Please join me in a warm welcome to our friend, Minnesota Senator Tina Smith.
Thank you so much, Ann. Well, good morning. There you are. I can't really see you out there with the light shining in my eyes, but I am just so delighted to be with you today. I want to thank Ann for that warm introduction and for the invitation to be with all of you today. And I want to thank the National Alliance to End Homelessness. You have been a powerful leader for decades. You are organizers. You understand about doing the hard work to build coalitions, to marshal the evidence and the data, and then to bring heart and empathy and strategy and great ideas towards the goal of making sure that everybody has a safe, affordable, decent place to live every day. Now, I want to just also say that I deeply respect that this coalition grows out of listening to and creating power with and for people who have experienced a life without having a safe place to sleep at night. You know, I come at this from an organizer. I come from the Paul Wellstone School of Organizing. And we know this as organizers, that those that are closest to the challenges, those that are closest to doing the work are always going to know best what does work. So I want to thank you for trusting the folks who know what it's like from personal experience not to have a place to live. And that is, I think, part of why your work is so transformational and so life-changing and so essential. So I start from the place that everybody deserves a safe, affordable place to live. And without that, nothing in your life works. Nothing. Not your job, your education, not your health, not your family. Everybody deserves the freedom and the opportunity to build the life that they want. And in order to do that, they have to have a home. Having a roof over your head, a safe place to sleep at night with dignity and privacy, that is a human right. And yet we know that millions of our friends and family and neighbors, they struggle to find and to keep a home. And this is true in big cities and small towns. It's true in rural places. This affects everyone. But we also need to be clear that homelessness disproportionately affects folks that are Black and Latino and Native. And as an example of that, I think of my home state of Minnesota, where Native people are 30 times more likely to experience homelessness than their white neighbors. So homelessness is a housing issue, but it is also an issue of equity and social justice. And repairing these systems is what we need to do. So let's be clear about another point. Sleeping outside because you don't have a safe place to live, that is not a crime. So it is, let's be honest with ourselves, it is shocking that this activist Supreme Court, how they ruled in Grants Pass versus Johnson, saying that it is legal for communities to arrest or fine or ticket people simply for sleeping outside because they have no other choice. Tell me, how is fining a mother who is sleeping in a tent with her babies in a public park, how is that going to solve any problem at all? How is arresting a trans or queer teenager because they don't feel safe in a shelter, how is that going to make anybody safer? And thinking about the Supreme Court, and this may be a conversation for another time, but knowing how important this is, I just think that this case that we are talking about shows us how the Supreme Court is broken. This court has been captured. It is at its lowest ebb of legitimacy because of the decisions like we have seen with Grants Pass. And that is why I believe as organizers, we need to think seriously about the structural reforms that we need to make to the Supreme Court so that it is truly following the laws of the land and not making up laws of its own. As organizers, we know what to do about that. We have to organize, and we have to win. Now, addressing homelessness is about fixing broken systems. It is not about punishing people. For people experiencing homelessness, they have a lot going on in their lives because the systems of our country are not working for them. Little access to mental health care or physical health care, interactions with the criminal justice system that aren't working, financial challenges, because we know that it is expensive to be poor in this country. But at its core, homelessness is a housing issue. And we know that our country is facing a significant housing supply crisis. And neither the private markets, nor public systems and programs are meeting the demand for housing. And as a result, millions of Americans are struggling to find an affordable place to live, especially people working in low-wage jobs. The scale of this problem is massive. 650,000 people experiencing homelessness at one point in January of 2023, up to 12% higher than the year before, despite our heroic efforts during the pandemic to provide rental assistance and banning evictions. As those programs ran down and wound down, we could start to see their impact, their power, and also what happened when we took them away. And we can see what this means for people and their dignity. Encampments in cities, overcrowding and subpar housing on tribal lands, and people sleeping in their cars or on a friend's couch. So we in this room, we understand the scope of this problem. And we also understand that we have a moral imperative and an economic imperative to do something about this. And we also understand that this challenge is not intractable. It is solvable. People like you who are working every single day to address homelessness, you tell me that we know what to do. We just need to marshal the will to do it. So in the time that I have with you, I want to highlight 3 places where I believe we can make progress, where we are making progress, where we have the evidence and the experience and the know-how to bring people home. And I know that in a little bit, many of you, I hope all of you, will be going up to Capitol Hill to talk about these issues. So I hope that this will plant some ideas in your head about what that experience is going to be like and what you can do. So I want to start with veterans homelessness. In the past 15 years, the federal government and communities nationwide made a true commitment to ending veterans homelessness. And thanks to this focus, veterans homelessness has been reduced by over half. Thanks, let's be honest, not only to the focus, but to significant investments in housing vouchers and wraparound services. That's a huge accomplishment. We know that as of right now, 84 communities in 3 states have ended veterans homelessness, and I'm really proud to say that my home state of Minnesota is on track to become the 4th state to achieve this goal. Where's Minnesota? Now, I want to tell you that this morning, just this morning, I introduced legislation called the Housing for All Veterans Act, which would guarantee a housing voucher to every veteran who needs one. Housing for low-income veterans shouldn't be determined by the whims of the federal appropriations process. It should be a promise fulfilled for every veteran to bring them home. And that's what my bill does. So I am shamelessly asking for your help and support when you go out talking to members of Congress and their staff today. I asked you to remember this, and I hope that you will lend your powerful voices to building support for this legislation that I know would make such a huge difference. Now, the second place where I want to focus and where I know that we can make progress is investing in supportive housing, where people, thank you, investing in supportive housing, where people can transition out of survival mode and have a dignified place to live where they have the support that they need. And we see great examples of this all over the country. But I want to tell you about one in Minnesota, Avivo Village. Now, Avivo Village is an indoor community of tiny homes that is focused on reducing the barriers that make it hard for people to transition into supportive housing. They emphasize the 3 Ps: people, pets, and possessions. These tiny homes, they provide people within a big warehouse. You have these little, maybe, 12 square foot spaces that provide people with privacy, with dignity in the community. They have their own space. They can close the door. They feel safe and they feel protected, and they are protected from the hot weather or the freezing weather. They are also in community, and they have ready connection to the healthcare and the treatment and the services that they need to transition to a more stable place. Places like Avivo Village show such great promise for respectfully, and I emphasize respectfully, demobilizing encampments and successfully bringing people home to the place where they can thrive. And I have heard directly from people in Minnesota about how knowing that they could move into a place in Avivo Village would be the thing that would help them to transition to a safer place to be. Because of this innovative model, we have already helped nearly 200 people transition to permanent housing. This is an example of the kinds of things that we need to do more of as we pledge to truly improve access to supportive housing in our country. The third opportunity that I want to highlight is what can we do to make existing federal programs work better for you and your clients. Now, this is where we get a little nerdy, but I have a feeling that this audience is ready for this. We know that communities must have adequate and culturally responsive resources so that they can meet the crisis that people are experiencing. Think about what this means for Native housing programs. My colleague, Republican colleague from Wyoming, Cynthia Lummis, and I have pressed HUD hard to ensure that their programs, their tribal housing programs, provide adequate resources and respect tribal sovereignty and rights to govern themselves. And I am so grateful for the incredible tribal advocates who have raised this issue to us and helped us to understand it better so that we can be good partners in advocating for this. We also need to follow your lead so that the federal government actually is listening to people who have lived experience with homelessness as we build policy, so that programs are more accessible and equitable, and they truly are responsive to community needs, because we know that they are, because we ask the community. This is something we have to do more of in the federal government. And let's be honest. We need to streamline these programs. We need to cut through the red tape. Continuum of care programs should be freed up from the burdensome and repetitive paperwork, and they should have more flexibility, more resources to fund the administration and the planning that you need to do in order to do your work. You know, we need to understand that service agencies like those of you in the room, you need more resources so that the folks that are doing the hard work, doing outreach, are compensated enough to be able to stay in those roles. How can it be that you are meeting the needs of people that are struggling to transition to a safe place to live when your very own workers are struggling to stay in their jobs and struggling to find a place to live yourselves? Now, I understand that your National Alliance to End Homelessness, that you did a workforce survey and you identified two crucial needs, and I want to just highlight them because I think they're very important. More resources and more staff. And I want you to know that I'm going to be right there with you fighting to deliver that and to get that done. So, we know the scope of the challenge, we get that, but we are hopeful because we know what to do. We just need to marshal the resources and the support to get it done. That's where the organizing comes in. I am very hopeful because I know I have seen the great innovation and inspiration of folks like you on the ground doing this hard work. And I am hopeful because I see bipartisan interest in this challenge, and I see bipartisan support for this problem, and a shared understanding that housing affordability and the need to boost housing supply, that is the work ahead of us. And honestly, I am hopeful because you all are here. I mean, your stories, your experiences, your voices are so powerful. And I can tell you that lawmakers and their staff are ready to hear from you. They want to hear what you have to say. Let them know what's happening at home. Let them know what you've seen that is working to give them hope. I know that people who don't do a lot of work in housing often just become overwhelmed. It seems as if the scale of the problem is just too much, and they don't understand how all the policy pieces fit together. What you need to do is to give them hope that we actually do know what to do. We have the capacity to solve this problem. It is not intractable, it is solvable, and you know what to do. You just need the support and the resources to get it done. And I also want to say, if you're talking to a member of Congress or the Senate, that's great. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a former staffer myself, but having those conversations with staff, with congressional staff, is equally powerful because those are the folks that really understand the policy at a deep level, and they are going to be able to really help figure out where we go from here. So I want you to remember in closing that this issue of housing and the challenges of homelessness, it is top of mind for the members and their staff that you're going to be talking to. In 2022, just over half of Americans polled said that homelessness was a very serious problem. People can see it, and that number is only growing. So understand that people are primed to hear what you have to say today. They are ready to hear about solutions. They want to be part of the solution and not just admiring the problem. And that is why I close with the message that you are so powerful. Your voices are strong. You know what to do. You know exactly what to say. And I am so grateful that you are lending your power to this incredible effort to make sure that truly housing is a human right in this country and that everybody has a safe, dignified, decent place to live every day. Thank you so much for your work.